Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Help for HDTV. We have Davin back with us today, and we are going to talk about estates planning. I think a lot of people think of that as I own my home, I want to protect my estate, and I have this, but that's actually not what it is. So it's a lot larger topic than that. So thank you for coming back with us, Davin, and let's talk about estate planning.
Sure. Yeah. Appreciate having me back on here. Important topics to talk about. I usually get into these topics traditionally around life insurance, but honestly, it doesn't matter what the insurance product is, or it doesn't have to be insurance related. Everyone should have some sort of an estate plan. And I usually say, you got a will, you have a plan, but it's either your plan or the state's plan. They have a will for you. They do. And it's either your will be done or they do, or their will be done. So why not have something in force for yourself? And there are some other things that people mention to me is I don't have a lot of assets. There's nothing for me to pass down. I don't need to go through the expense of having a will or something of that nature. And honestly, for folks that have never been at the table at the funeral home or had to deal with the loved ones passing and having to deal with, I guess, the business, for lack of a better word, the business of dying. It's just what I call it, the business of dying, because there's a lot of things that have to happen after. And when you have these things written down, it makes things so much easier for your loved ones. Not only are they having the emotional distress of the loss of you not being there, and then the financial distress of having to take care of final expenses, but then there's just the stress of having to take care of whether it's deeds to a house or cars or debts, or maybe there's someone that needs to still be cared for, another loved one, a spouse, a child. Maybe they got special needs, something of that effect. What's going to happen? And I was just on a seminar earlier today about estate planning, and someone mentioned this again. I think of this and I know this, but sometimes I don't always relate this out. But what happens to if you have a minor child, if something were to happen to you, do you want that child to go into foster care? Or do you have some place for that child to go? Do you have this written out where you are? So again, to will your child to whether it be a grandparent or a sibling or someone else, rather than going to a foster care system, being with strangers. And that's very likely to happen. So again, estate planning is really important. I will say when I talk about estate planning, we spend so much time planning for vacations. My wife and I, our family, we're looking at taking our kiddo on his first cruise this year. And I can't tell you the countless times that we were just looking and looking. We spend so much time looking and planning for vacation throughout the year, but how much time do we actually plan for our family, for our legacy, if something were to happen to us after we're gone? We can take a little bit of time to plan for these unexpected events. I'm not going to say unexpected. It is expected that something's going to happen at some point, but for us to take care of these things, estate planning can be having your will set up, something as simple as having a will. And yes, you may say you may not have that much to offer, but a will basically just lays out what is your will, what's going to happen, who gets what. If you have a child, who's going to be the new guardian of that child. It also gives power to your personal representative to go act on your behalf, to go take care of bank accounts or pay taxes or whatever, transfer deeds and titles. Then there's power of attorney. I always recommend this for someone having a power of attorney. And even if you have a child who's once they turn 18, you don't have any authority to act on their behalf at that point. So I know in our case, when our child turns 18, that's going to be one of the things that we'll do is we'll do a power of attorney that gives us permission to act on his behalf if we need to, until such time that he's comfortable. Because I will say, our kid likes to have a little hand holding. Sometimes he doesn't want to use his own debit card to pay for things. He wants me to do it for him on his debit card. So we'll have power attorney set up for that. Also, when we talk in terms of Huntington's disease, I have learned just because I am married to my spouse who has HD, that if I need to do something for him, for her, just because I'm married to her does not give me the legal authority to act on her behalf. I still have to have a power of attorney. And even when it comes to Social Security Administration, doesn't even recognize power of attorney, by the way. I don't know if you knew that or if people knew that in general, but they do not recognize power of attorney because it's state specific and not federal. So they have what's called a representative payee that has to be set up and assigned. and then you can act on their behalf, the Social Security Administration. So that's a
So
little
if we
side
can
note.
pause, yeah, no, if we can pause there, that's a really good, important fact because I'm my brother's payee. I'm not his power of attorney. But in our community, is there something that people can do that's more federally recognized, or is it simply it has to be state by state, and then you have to also go to Social Security and get payee?
Yeah,
Right.
apparently when I was doing, unless something has happened since the time I was doing the research, that's exactly how it is. I thought that there was, because I even talked to our attorneys, our law firm, and asked them, there's nothing that's federal that's like that.
Okay.
So each agency has their own recognition for that, and for Social Security, it's called representative payee. But yeah, it's power of attorney is state specific. It's good. It's durable power. Durable power of attorney is the important word there, not just any other type of power of attorney or general power of attorney. It has to be durable power of attorney. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, it is state specific, and there's not like a federal power of attorney that would encompass all things.
Okay.
But having a POA is better than not having none at all.
Absolutely. I used to work in a hospice care home and we saw them all the time because there'd be bickerments between family members as to what's happening at the end of life. Power of attorney for healthcare would be the ultimate like say all. It would be the one to make the decision.
Yep.
And so it's very important, especially if you have a big family or a couple of family members that may not see eye to eye. It's extremely important to have that in place because things can get a little ugly towards the end of life.
Yeah, I come from a
Love does
really
funny
big,
things.
yeah, I come from a big family, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember one time we were at the hospital. My grandmother was in ICU, and the family was trying to decide, and it can get a little ugly sometimes. But having a power of attorney, having an advanced care directive is really important no matter what. And the advanced care directive, a lot of people don't know you can get this for free. Every state typically has an advanced care directive or medical power of attorney. Sometimes it goes by different names. You can get this for free and have it notarized. Or a part of one of the resources that we provide is affordable access to a law firm that people can do to get all this estate planning done. But an advanced care directive basically states out if this is the quality of life, this is the acceptable quality of life, and if I'm unable to make decisions, this is the person who can make decisions for me. And this is what I'm willing to accept. So if I am on a ventilator, unconscious, and cannot make decisions for myself, and there is no hope for me coming off this thing, rather than continually costing the family money to leave me on life support, my desire is if I'm not going to come off this thing, or if I do come off this thing, I'm going to be basically unconsciously aware of my existence. Go ahead and pull the plug. It tells me exactly what my acceptable quality of life is. So there's no question of what I would have. And the same thing goes to my wife. She's done one of these. So we know what's acceptable. We know when we can resuscitate, when not to resuscitate. And
And
sometimes it's
honestly,
hard.
yeah, honestly, they're going down to talking about things like putting somebody on life support. That's a major one, right? Even
Mhm.
things like treating infection,
And that's covered on
just as
ours.
detailed as you can get, the better for your loved ones when it comes to that time.
And their
Absolutely.
loved one, but also it's a gift if you are the one giving the gift to the caregiver and to your family, because it is a lot of pressure to have to make a decision for someone who's nonverbal and they didn't make decisions for themselves, and you feel like you're guessing, and it could be something you live with for the rest of your life. So it's actually a gift you're giving your family, saying, this is my wishes, this is what I want, and then they never have to. It's a gift I'm going to give my children. I don't want them to ever question if they did the right thing for me or not. Here's what I
Right.
want. So it runs both ways. The person who's passing, they get that's the gift of the people to give them what they want, but it's also a gift from the opposite way.
Exactly. It relieves the burden of trying to figure out, I love them. What do they want me to do? Am I making the right choice? Am I making the right decision? Because then that can be a very heavy guilt to leave on the person. And by doing this, you relieve that guilt from them.
Yep. And one thing Katrina said is I love is families getting never the people that say this will never happen are the people that happen to the most. So if you think your family will not fight and you think your family is, oh, it's everything's going to be great and we're all going to be agreeance and it's going to kumbaya, it probably is not.
Yeah,
Families, they show the best of themselves during end of life. And
this is true. This is true. And everyone wants the best or make the right decision for mom, dad, or sister, brother, or whatever. But yeah, having these things in place in advance beforehand is really important to go ahead and set these things up. Again, to relieve the guilt, the decision making for your loved one that you've already stated what is acceptable, what do you want to happen. And through these things, and I would say may even want to state that I am not an attorney. I do not have a legal license. I have not passed the bar. So I don't offer any legal advice. I just offer resources and the access to these resources here. But and of course, this is on my website and on my blog for people to access these things. But I will also go a step further and say that a will is great. It's also been stated a will is a wish. But if you can go a step further and create a trust, then that's a real contract that outlives, that's your legacy, that outlives your will. If you can create a trust, then I would go a step further doing that. And trust can be expensive. A lot of people saying wills are expensive, and I get it, they can be, depending on where you go. The average attorney charges anywhere from $500 to $1,500 per hour, plus the retainer to do these things. Um, we've again, the unique insurance solutions that we provide is providing affordable access. My family, we pay a membership fee just like people pay to Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and we have unlimited advice consultation on our plans, our wills and estate planning done every year and revised, all at no cost. We pay a monthly membership, no, not much more than we pay for our Netflix, to be honest with you, to do this. But if someone can create a trust, I know that's what we are looking at doing right now. And the reason why we would be looking at trust is because if something were to happen to me, I want a trust formed to take care of my wife and her ongoing needs, having Huntington's disease. I want to make sure things are in place to where it's going to be setting her up for the resources and the care. Also, at the same time, for our child, too. Now, on the reverse side, if something were to happen to her first, the will would be fine for us, for myself and our kiddo. But again, with me being sole income earner and provider of our household and the caregiver, we are establishing a trust to take care of things if I am not here. Will is good. A
Thank,
trust is better.
and thank you for bringing up the fact of like it being the same price as like a Netflix subscription, because I don't think people how obtainable some of these things are. They think of just big fees to start out with and then like hundreds of dollars monthly. And so I think just putting a little bit of a structure on what the price is, I think that's going to be super helpful, especially like to people like me who don't have these things in place. I'm like, oh, okay, I have 3 of those subscriptions, so maybe I should get rid of one and do a little bit of
Right.
this.
It is. I'll tell you, of all the things that I would probably, if I had to look at my budget and things were really bad, of things that I would get rid of and things that I would not get rid of, there are 2 big things I would never consider getting rid of. And that is 1, my life insurance, and 2, my legal plan that I have, because we never know when something's going to happen. But I also pay for that. I pay for that for the advice and consultation, and of course for the wills and estate plan stuff to get done.
Yeah. And I think to think that you're their spouse and you're okay, you're not. Cause when my husband passed, we did have, we had a will, we have a living trust, we had a trust, we had durable attorney, we had all of it, power of attorney,
Mhm.
the whole big leather packet that comes in the mail.
Right.
And your mortgage, it's like this thick. But I did go into a financial institution and I had to ask them about a plan. And they said, okay, we need your trust. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we need a signed copy of the trust. And I'm like, why? I'm his wife. Here's my marriage certificate. They said, no, we need the trust. I had to drive
Yes.
home and get the trust and bring back the book and show them. And then they opened up everything. And
Yes.
my husband was passed. So I couldn't go back and have him sign anything. I couldn't have him give me access to this. Like he was gone. But my
And
husband,
not only that, you don't want to deal with that during that time.
exactly.
Right.
So he gave me the biggest gift, that he was very pushy on us getting this done. And I'm so thankful he was. And it wasn't because of Huntington's disease. It was because he was caught, but then he ended up getting diagnosed with Huntington's. But I really realized the importance of all these things when I needed them. And
Yeah,
they were
it's
there.
great. The thing is that when we do these things and we think of these things, it's an abstract idea out there that I think people generally know that they need to have life insurance. I think they generally know that they should have a will. but then the actual execution of getting those things done is foreign. And I don't know what to do or what to answer or how this all works. It's really not that hard. When I first did it, it was great. It was easy. We pretty much went through a few questionnaires of if something were to happen, like for example, we were to pass away, you have children, who do you want to be the guardian listed or named as the guardian of that child? It's a question like that. You fill in the blank or answer the question. And that gets input into the will with all the legalese and whatnot to be taken care of. But it's just a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, right? And that's just something that we got to do. And again, if we can take a year to plan for a vacation, why can't we take an hour to plan for our legacy afterward?
Yeah, and you're right. It's one planning, right? It's one session of sitting down, answering really hard questions, a couple hours to get this done. It's done. I shut the book and I never looked back. But I felt
Yes,
comfort. You will feel comfort that
yes,
the will and trust are done and your loved one and you are taken care of.
absolutely. It's really nice when you come into a situation where you need to have those documents or someone's asking for that, it's
Mhm.
done. It's a whole different story when it's not done and you're like, I don't know what to do. They're not here. They can't sign for anything. Now I have to figure out some legal way to get them to act to allow me to have access, which of course then you have to go through the court and pay even more money to
Yep.
have these other things done so that you can go
Right.
do that one little thing at the bank.
You don't know, you could end up in a state of where the state's deciding on you being on a respirator or pulled off, and chances are I've seen a lot of situations, they keep people alive a lot longer than than the person
Yeah,
needs.
absolutely.
If you don't get in a situation where the state and the government is making decisions about your life.
Yep, absolutely.
So thank you once again, Davin, for coming on. And until next time, you guys make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel below and ring the bell for notifications when more videos like this come out. Until next time.